PodAskew Podcast is a proud member of the Big Heads Media Podcast Network.
Did you know that a man once jumped into a bulletproof window so much that he busted it out of the frame and fell to his death? I do. Hey, I'm Nicholas Howe, and I made an improvised comedy storytelling podcast about this death and many others. Using a multiverse of me's as the catalyst, I explore the various ways people have died. I also have special guests on and freak them out about how dangerous the world is. Did you know lakes can explode? You do now. Listen to the How Will I Die podcast on iTunes or wherever you get your podcasts, and follow us on Twitter at HWIDIEPOD.
To the PodAskew Podcast. I am CJ, and with me, as always, is my hetero life mate Rico. What's up, man?
What's up, dude?
Dude, I'm tired.
Are you?
But when am I not tired anymore? So I guess that's not saying much. But
you've had a pretty rough couple of weeks.
Well, yeah, it is what it is. But here we are. Really excited about today's interview, though.
You know, it reminds me of, hey, CJ, do you like comic books?
Right? Oh, my God. I hadn't even thought of that. But, yeah. We're going to be interviewing the writer for a comic book that reached out to us, God, it's over a year ago at this point, I think, and asked us to review the book, and we did, the MusicMaker, and we loved it. It was at least I did. I think you liked it, too. I think I liked it a little more than you did, but not saying you didn't like it, but, you know. I think
my only minor complaint, and this is my own thing, this has nothing to do with the art or the writer or the comic on a whole, is I don't like reading comics on digital. I like reading comics on paper. Right. I like that old school flipping the pages. That's my own thing. But the comic by itself, I thought it was great. It's still good. I'm still looking for like the next issue.
Yeah, I'm curious about issue 3. Some questions I have for her when we get her on about that, just based on some of the email interaction we've had, and I'm not sure if she'll want to talk about it, but we'll find out, I guess. Nothing bad, but just interesting tidbits, you know. And I don't know if that was meant to be shared with us or for the world. So
sure,
we'll find out though. But I'm excited to do that. While we're waiting for her to join us, actually, in the world of comic books, I will tell you briefly, and I know you probably don't care about this movie, but I watched Alita Battle Angel. And while I can tell you right off, Rico, I know it's not your kind of movie. So
No, probably not. No.
Yeah. Although you liked AI, didn't you? Or no?
AI with Haley Joel Osment AI?
Yeah.
Way back when?
Yeah.
You know, I only saw it once.
Okay.
I remember, I think I was just really immature when I first saw it.
Yeah.
And I think I was like 10. I think I was just kind of more transfixed that Jude Law was playing a gay robot. I was just like, this is really weird to me.
Yeah.
And I think I need to give it another shot. I think it's not for a 10-year-old to see. I've
only seen it once. And it was a long time ago, too. I wasn't as young as you, but it's been a long time now. And I would like to have seen Kubrick's take on it, because as you probably know, it started off as a Stanley Kubrick film. He passed away before he could start shooting it, and Spielberg took it over from him and made a lot of changes.
I thought Kubrick actually did film part of it. I thought he had actually gone into and filmed at least a third of it.
I don't know if it's a third, but the bulk of the movie is Spielberg. I know that.
Yeah.
You might be right about the percentage or the fraction or whatever, Rico. I don't know, but I know.
I don't know either.
I know the bulk of it is Spielberg, and it started as a Kubrick film. I know that much. Anyway, but getting back to Alita, there are a couple of things that came out of it that I do think you would like, and you probably could YouTube these parts so you don't have to watch the whole film if you don't want to.
Sure.
But Christoph Waltz is awesome in it.
He always is. He's always good.
He's really good. But he was really good in it. Ed Skrein, I don't know how you say his name. He plays Ajax in Deadpool. Or Ed Francis. Skieran. Is it Skieran? Okay, I'm sorry if I'm saying it wrong, but yeah, I'm really not trying to nitpick on the name, but the point is that he's in it and does a really good job. Okay. But the point of me bringing up as a whole is that Mahershala Ali is in it. And he's playing the bad guy, but he's this, like, dark character. And he's just for you and for our listeners who may have seen the movie, he's full human. Because there's a lot of cyborg in this movie. He's full human, but he is dark. And so, if it's any indication of what we're going to get in Blade when he takes over that character, not the action parts, but just the
gravitas.
Right, and the confrontation, like if he's just like arguing with Frost or whoever the enemy is going to be. I'm assuming it's going to be Deacon Frost, but I could be wrong. And whoever it is, if those interactions like you used to see with Wesley Snipes talking to Frost,
some motherfuckers always want to ice skate uphill.
Right, but the gravitas was there, and I'm really, if that's what he's going to bring to Blade, I'm really excited for what Blade's going to be like.
I mean, not for nothing, Mahershala is a fucking Oscar-winning actor. I mean,
damn right, yeah.
I mean, sometimes they give those fuckers away, but like Mahershala earned his. Yeah,
he's got 2, doesn't he? He got one. I think he got one for Moonlight and one for Green Book, if I'm correct.
Yep.
Which, by the way, I don't know if we've talked about it on here, but I saw Green Book, and holy crap, was that good? We'll maybe get into it.
It was good, but was it Best Picture good?
For me, yeah. But see, as a music lover, yes. To me, yes. But I get the point you're making, and it's a fair argument or fair question.
I mean, I liked it. I liked it a lot. I actually I've watched it 2 more times since I watched it.
Yeah, I've watched it twice myself, so I liked it a lot.
I liked the fact that for 1 second, a guy named Vigo maybe 100% convinced that he was Italian.
There you go. But getting back to the point of today, we do have the writer, as I said, of the MusicMaker comic coming on. So let's get her on, and we'll see what she has to say about her book and tell us what she can about the future of the comic. Okay, so SK, I'm gonna go for this here, but I'm probably gonna fuck it up. But Malvo. I was close. Okay.
You were close.
I was close.
You still get the prize, yeah.
I could have got it.
Oh, fuck you, Rico. We're loving this book though.
Yeah.
Really, really, I can tell you, and I'm not going to throw anyone else under the bus, we were asked to look at another comic book right around the time you introduced us to your book, and suffice it to say, we weren't fans. So this is...
I think the best thing I could have said about that comic book was, I'd like to see this as a TV show.
Yes, it would have made a great show. It did not make a good comic book. We'll put it that way.
Right.
But you and your partner here, Andres, is that correct?
Oh yeah, Andres. Andres Quesada.
Yeah, you guys. The biggest complaint on the other book, and I'm not going to spend a lot of time speaking about that one, was they didn't blend the writing with the art very well. You guys have done that well. Your guys looks like a comic book, as it should. It's a comic book. That one didn't read well. This one reads really well. You know where your eye's supposed to go. You know what bubble you're supposed to be reading next, what frame to be in. You guys did a really well of blending that better than other books we've seen.
And which is actually really remarkable when you think about it, because, I mean, I'm not trying to sound like I'm blowing smoke up my own. Anyway.
Please do. We do it all the time.
You could swear on here, by the way.
Yes, by the way,
okay.
Yeah.
All right. Well, blowing smoke up my own ass here. But one thing that's actually kind of remarkable about that is that it was just wonderful serendipity, because we're actually dealing with a slight, admittedly slight, but we are dealing with a bit of a language barrier, he and I.
Okay.
Because, yeah, English is his second language, but just through the magic of the fact that I just found the right artist and he found the right writer, we just naturally, I give him like a few directions and then he gives me that and like 10 times more. It's one of those beautiful things that happened and you couldn't plan for it. I know we couldn't do it again, but, yeah. So yeah, I mean, I'm glad I'm glad that you guys picked up on that and that's something that's working for us. Cause I really love hearing that. Cause it is not a lot of people seem to, I want to say more people do now than previously, but not a lot of people seem to appreciate comics for the medium that they are, and this might be because so many comics are being made into movies, and so there is a kind of that blur now. Not everyone seems to appreciate that certain comics are good because they're comics, not because they translate well into other mediums, which is great when that's the case. But yeah, I'm just glad to hear that, we're actually doing it because we're both, big comic book fans, big indie comic book fans as well. And I'm glad that, we're actually, doing justice to the medium.
Oh, totally, definitely. And Rico, you speak to this, please, because before we brought you on, SK, we were kind of talking that the only thing that Rico didn't like about the book that I don't have a problem with, and it's a silly thing. It really is. He's very old school about everything. Like, he prefers VHS over DVD. He's that kind of guy. And so which is ironic because
streaming.
Right. Yeah.
Well, the irony is I work at a video store. So I work at a video store.
Sorry.
So
no, it's okay. We laugh at him all the time. So
yeah, I mean, whenever someone's like, "Oh yeah, I got this on Netflix," I'm like, "You dirty whore."
yeah.
Especially like I have customers that come in and be like, "Oh, I wanted to watch this, but it was on Netflix," and I'm like, "Oh wow, do you go to McDonald's and say it sounds good?" Burger King, like, is that how you're treating me?
I do, but that's beside the
really
point.
But to go with what he's saying, he started off by saying the one thing he didn't like about the book. That's the wrong way of saying it.
That's true. I'm sorry. He's right.
I love the book, but I don't like the fact it's not a book. I don't like looking at digital things. I'm an old school. I like to feel and smell that paper. Well,
that's a great thing then, because I mean, don't get me wrong. Largely, how we've been distributing this has been via digital, sadly or blessedly, depending on how you look at it. But no, I mean, no, he and I are both old school in that sense too, is that we like, there's something about having a tangible book in your hand, and, it just sets the boys from the men, I think, personally.
See, well, I appreciate that. Don't get me wrong. Like, I don't not appreciate having the paper copy or whatever. I like the convenience and be able to grab my tablet and, if you end up making 30 of these, having the entire collection right there in my hand if I wanted to read them all. You know what I mean? So
yeah.
But that doesn't I don't think that makes anyone right or wrong.
Yeah.
So,
I didn't want to give that impression. I was putting.
No.
No. She said it. I'm a man. You're a boy. That's what she just said.
Yes, that's exactly what she said. You're right, Rico. So, SK, what inspired this story? What made you want to bring this story to light, as opposed to maybe anything else you've written?
Yeah, what awful hardships did you go through?
Great, Rico. Insult the guest in the first 10 minutes. Thank you. That's fantastic.
No. It's okay. It's okay. I had it coming. Anyway, what trials and tribulation? Well, I will say this, because you guys have read issue 2 by now.
Yeah.
Yes.
I should hope. Okay, cool. The very first one we did, issue 1, it was its own animal and still kind of is. And I want to say this for people who are interested in reading that and just getting like a taste of what, this story's about. You can get it, our newsletter on, the MusicMaker Comix, Comics with an X, website. You can get a free download of issue 1. We do that just, to get people over that hump of actually, getting interested in something that they may not have necessarily heard about prior
Giving
to that.
out that free taste. That's what that's all about, right there.
Yeah, exactly. Just getting our foot in the door has been the biggest issue and everything, because people have been really positive once we get them to that point. It's just, it's getting there.
Yeah.
But I completely forgot what the question
was hooked by the first. I was hooked by the first issue. I was really.
Yeah, me too.
To me, it looked like, and this is as much of a compliment as I possibly can. It looked like if Tim Burton had drawn the art is very dark. Everybody's got a 6-pack, but it's really that, but it's that gaunt Iggy Pop kind of body. They look like they've done heroin, but the features.
But it looks like an acid trip as well too.
Yeah. It's like if Tim Burton was said, "Well, I could draw a superhero," and it looks like Marilyn Manson. You're like, "That's not a superhero, motherfucker." It's like, why? Just because he looks like a heroin addict? You're like, I mean, yeah, but. I was sucked into it. My favorite thing is that his name is Maestro. That for me, I was like, that is such a great superhero name, is Maestro.
And that actually is. Oh, sorry, I'll let you.
No, please, by all means.
Okay. Well, that was it's actually funny that you mentioned that, is because not in the first 5. We're gonna hammer out the first 5 issues, and then we'll see where we're going with this, hopefully for another 5 and then another 5 after that. And that'll give us to 15. And then, maybe we'll continue on with it. We're not really sure. We are going to be possibly, shopping it to some publishers. So that's going to be fun. But, what I was going to say in, regards to that, the Maestro name is going to be, really significant to the story later on, and it's actually going to be something, because it's distinctive. It's not clear right now, but it's distinctive. Only no one else but his sister calls him that. It's one of those things that where you don't notice it right away, but once you start reading, it's like, oh, okay, well and it's going to be actually pretty critical to the story in the next 6 to 10. So I'm glad that you're jazzed about it, because that was one of the things that I was. I got some feedback that wasn't entirely positive about the name, but I was like, well, I mean, it makes sense, because it's it means it's like master of music. So I mean, and that's pretty much his his so-called superpower. Because I feel kind of weird saying it's a superpower, even though it kind of is. But yeah, that it has to do with sound and music, and that's I mean, what the whole thing is about. Yeah.
Pun intended. It is instrumental to him. I mean, it really is a part of the character that, on a whole, this is not a hero. He's a drug addict. He's a convicted felon. He tried to smuggle drugs through Thailand, yada, yada, yada.
As one does,
As one does. I love how you add that he's got an IQ of 168, but he didn't think that there would be police, drug enforced police dogs there.
Exactly.
And that goes with the guy can be so smart, but he's overlooking the simplest things.
Well, and if I could touch back to Rico, something you and I almost jokingly make sure we reference to every episode, he is a Tony Stark-esque character, except that it's music instead of machinery that seems to be his tool. You know what I mean? Because Tony doesn't have any powers, and I'm not trying to get into a whole Iron Man discussion, but he develops this. He develops the armor that allows him to have the powers that he has. Maestro here knows how to manipulate music and manipulate people's listening of music in a way that benefits him. So it's very similar in that way, and they're both geniuses in terms of IQ. So that's where I got from the character.
He's the anti-Stark.
Oh, totally. Yeah. But think about early Stark perfect. Too. I mean, he's very, just with women and drinking, and Tony might not have done drugs, but he's very that we know.
Tony Stark 100% did drugs.
Well, sure, but we never saw that. So, the point being, though, is that it's parallel very similarly, I think, but in a good way.
Yeah, you could definitely tell that one of my favorite heroes growing up was Iron Man, and there's no exactly. Yeah, I mean, it's kind of obvious. And it's going to be obvious that I was a big Constantine fan too. So yeah, it's going to be. It's going to be. Not yet. It won't be for a minute, but spoiler. It's going to be.
No, but that's not a bad thing. Tony mixed with Constantine. That's a book I want to read. So
I love hearing that. So that's great. Well, because and like I said, we both came into this. Andres and myself, we both came into this, with our, comic book nerd hats on, and whenever we had this idea about what it was. And it's so funny because I mean, the way I even found him is a little ridiculous, because I found him via DeviantArt, and I probably shouldn't even be telling the story, but it's amazing to me. You can post, I came up with this character. I knew I wanted to have just the idea of someone who could be almost like a Tony Stark kind of character, but with music, but with sound, and almost like a kind of hypnosis, and who was ridiculously intelligent, but was obviously flawed. The drugs, the sex, the just the blatant narcissism, and the ego. And so I knew that I wanted to have. The only thing that I said, I gave two major descriptions for what I was looking for. I said, one, I wanted to have like an Aeon Flux kind of feel, kind of Peter Chung kind of thing.
Okay. I was going to say, honestly, and I don't know if you've ever seen it, SK, but there was that animated Spawn series on HBO way back.
Yeah, and I remember that.
I kept thinking it felt like that, but now that you see Aeon Flux, you're right. It's closer to that than it is to the Spawn. Yeah, okay.
But pretty much, but close to Spawn too, because I definitely, I grew up on, I wasn't supposed to be watching it, but I grew up on that too. And, but yeah, that was definitely a part of it as well. But yeah, the two descriptions I gave, Aeon Flux, and then not safe for work because of the subject matter of the story. Well, the not safe for work part was that was entertaining, because I got kind of like this flood of furry porn and such. But
oh dear.
Yeah, a little interesting.
Which a little side thing. I remember I was hanging out with a coworker of mine, and he was writing. He had write and illustrate furry porn for a friend of his.
Yeah.
And he was doing there were big birds, and I was like, why are they called furries? They should be called they have feathers. They should be called
featheries.
And no, I said they should be called downies. And he's like, that is fucking great. And he's like, I'm gonna write to the guy. He's like, these are now called downies. So
well, there you go, Rico. You've contributed to the furry community. So
yeah, there's my contribution to the furry community.
Very nice, very nicely done. But yeah, so yeah, in short, you can tell where my mind is at.
Your inspiration is your inspiration, but when I was reading it, I kept thinking, this is the character of Mozart in Amadeus.
Yeah.
If he actually lived and became more of a degenerate. Because, I'm assuming we've all seen Amadeus.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, the fact that one of the greatest musical minds ever was in the body of this immature, drunk, womanizing, just shitbag of a person with a braying laugh.
I hate when you do that.
To the point where it's like, if he hadn't died at the end of, spoiler, it's been 400. It's been, 300 years?
Yeah, something like that, yeah.
Yeah. Then,
too soon, man, too soon.
Yeah, fuck, I'm sorry.
Actually,
Mozart didn't... Mozart
it might be closer to
700
700 years, Rico. It's been a long time, so yeah.
What?
You said 300. I think it might be closer to 700 because 300 is only 1700s.
Yeah, that's when Mozart was.
Was it? Okay, I thought it was earlier. Go ahead.
Yeah. Beethoven's is 1800, so
okay.
Beethoven after Mozart.
Yeah.
I grew up with an Italian father. I know this.
I know you know. Yes, I know.
But yeah, that watching it, it's like even the name Maestro and Mozart are so similar to the point where it's like you watch this. If this was made in like if they made a movie of this and it was in the 80s, I can imagine like Tom Hulce really kind of like. You put some punk rocker shit on him, you got your Maestro.
I don't know, Rico. For me, if we're doing 80s, I'm picturing one of the Coreys, either Feldman or a Ham. I'm not sure, but
well,
I'm not wrong.
Honestly, if this movie was made now, my opinion, I see Ben Foster personally.
Ben Foster, who did he play?
Ben Foster is that like. Actor that is like, oh, it's that dude. He played Angel in X-Men: The Last Stand.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
That would be nice, actually.
And the reason why I bring that up is because he was in the movie, something dog, American Dog, something like that. And he plays a drug addict, but he's like a tough guy, but he's like a genius, but he's so addicted to drugs that you're watching, you're like, how could someone so smart do something so stupid?
Exactly.
So frequently. And that's the point, is the drugs and the genius they actually kind of make each other in a weird roundabout way.
I don't want to get too far away from talking to SK about her project, but if I was going to cast this right off the top of my head, I honestly have two people in mind for like current day. And it's either Edgerton. I don't know why, but I think he could play this character, or Adam Driver, the two that I think could play this character.
Adam Driver's a really good choice.
You know,
yeah.
So
I was just thinking that.
That's just where I'm at. But anyway, I kind of want to get back to interviewing SK because that's the point of this. We can cast the movie.
Having a good time.
No, I'm good. Glad to hear that. But to Rico's point about the music. And he'll tell you, he loves music, but he knows it's a passion of mine. You can't see it, but I have a G clef tattooed on my arm. So,
oh, nice.
Music is a major, major passion of mine. So the fact that you took this and centered it around music, one, was just enough to catch me. But then as I'm going through it, and I came across the first QR code, and I'm like, what is this? And of course, if I see a QR code, I'm going to scan it because I'm a child. And, you know, I hit it and Beethoven starts playing on the first one. And I'm like, whoa. You know, and then you get deeper into the issue and it's the original music from the band. And we'll talk about them in a minute. But the fact that you're not only making this character who's involved in music, you're actually bringing the music to life in a way through the book is really intriguing to me. Like, for example, with issue 2, there's the QR code right on the full page shot of the concert. And I will tell you that I scanned it and listened to the entire song and didn't move off the page until the song ended. Because
nice.
Even though it's a still picture, I felt like I was watching the concert. So
I love hearing that.
Yeah, so it really anyone who listens to and loves music like I do this is going to touch like that. I think, you know, I think it's the right way, and it's ingenious putting those QR codes in.
Well, I mean, thank you, and that was something that actually came very, very, very late in the game, because we weren't even sure if it was possible. We were like racking our brains to think, and you know, and one of my beta readers said, you know, it would be cool, like, you know, and I said, yeah, if it was like, you know, because it's really cool that you're doing this concept with a medium that doesn't have sound.
Right.
And I was like, that's kind of, you know, that was where the idea kind of first started in its infancy. But yeah, like, I think it was literally a year to 6 months prior to actually getting together and putting the comic itself together that we were like, well, what if we like tried QR codes? I mean, maybe we could. And then, you know, and then it kind of developed from there. And the biggest issue has been, and this again worked in our favor, was we're not going to be showing a whole bunch of really big name music and everything because A, we can't.
Yeah,
exactly. A, we can't afford it. B, they don't need or want us, in their realm anyway. So I mean, that was kind of fine. But yeah, the idea of having actual sounds and actual music in the story was, I think, it's one of the things that is going to set it apart. So,
totally.
And we are pretty proud of, yeah.
It reminds me of a book, and I don't remember the name of it, and it's deep in my comic book collection, and I was not about to go digging it out just to reference it. But there was a book I got back at a Comic-Con here. I live right outside Philadelphia. So I was at a Comic-Con in Philly 20 years ago at this point, maybe more. Yeah, it's probably like 25 years ago. And I got this book for free. It was I think it's called Anarchy, actually, now that I'm thinking about it. And it came with a cassette tape. And as you read the book, you were supposed to play the tape, and it had sounds and music and actually voice actors acting the book out as you read it. And it was good, but it was a little cheesy. This is not cheesy, but what this does is I mean that. But what this does is it reminds me of that in the new age, in the 21st century, these QR codes, being able to hit that code with your phone while you're reading the book. Like, I had my tablet on my lap when I was reading this, and my phone was right next to me as it always is. So what I was able to do is pick up my phone, turn on the camera, and scan the QR code, and it starts playing the music. And it was just a cool experience to be able to then put my phone next to me while I'm still reading, because, like, especially in the first issue with the Beethoven, it's meant to go over a couple frames, if I understood it correctly. At least that's the way I interpreted it. Yeah. So as I was turning pages and reading frames while it was playing behind me, whereas, like I said, with issue 2 and the concert, I freeze framed. Like, at first I did turn the page, and it occurred to me that, like, the next frame doesn't really fit with the music. You can. It doesn't, like, take you out of the experience. But I felt like it was better to sit and focus on that page while the song played. Just having that in taking advantage of the technology that's available, I thought was just genius, honestly.
Well, thank you. Hoping it pans out. And part of the challenge with that was also making the music very much. It's very much icing on the cake. It can't be the cake, because you're not always, not everyone is going to be in a position where they can listen to it. They're not gonna. I don't know. They're either not gonna. I don't know anyone who doesn't have a smartphone, but anyway,
I actually do, but I know the point. Yeah. So
yeah. But the art and the storyline had to be strong enough that it was going to survive on its own without the QR codes. The QR codes are great, and they tie into the whole concept and the theme of the book. But it's not, it's not a prerequisite to enjoy this either. Right.
And to that point, Rico, you read the book without ever scanning the QR codes, didn't you not?
Right. I was that. I went into it thinking, like, one, I don't know how to do that. 2, I don't care as much. As no disrespect to you, I wouldn't do that for anything.
Yeah. I can vouch for that, SK. It's not a you thing. It's a Rico thing. So.
Okay.
CJ is right. He is the musical guy between the two of us. I still like music.
Absolutely.
I'm a Sinatra fan. Like, I like shit that is, I like people that have been dead for, from old age for the past 20 years.
Mozart, Sinatra, you get where he's going here. Right?
Yeah, I do.
He's got a tattoo of a musical note. I got a tattoo of a fedora. So there's yours.
Oh, see, there you go.
Right.
Well, see, now I have to show her mine. See, I'll see if I can get the camera angle. But anyway, go ahead.
Not that low, buddy. There it is.
Oh, it's bloody too. That's awesome.
It's meant to represent the music is in my blood, so that's why it's like that. But anyway, Rico, your point.
Yeah,
I'm sorry.
I read it without the musical cues, so to speak. But when he described it to me, because I was like, wait, there's a whole fucking thing that I'm missing, and I'm like, that's all right. But it literally did remind me of those. It wasn't a comic book. It was a bunch of children's books that like Disney did. Where it's like, you want to read 101 Dalmatians, put in this tape, and when you hear the ding, you turn the page.
Yeah,
I remember that. Yeah.
I had one for like Raiders of the Lost Ark, and I'm like, when the faces melt, turn the page. Like,
I'm surprised you didn't have one for something like Clockwork Orange, Rico, because your dad would just show you some weird shit.
That's terrifying.
After the weird group rape, turn the page.
Yeah, right.
Sorry.
No, you're fine.
Yeah, you're fine. We're demented.
Yeah.
Even though you wrote a demented comic.
Yeah, I was about to say. I think I have my street cred. Thank you.
You're absolutely. You're part of the weird group. But how the fuck did you come up with this?
Yeah, what was the genesis for Maestro and his backstory and where it's ultimately going?
What drugs did you partake in?
Oh, stop it!
For research.
for research, I was researching this. I was researching this project long before this project even existed. Long before I wanted to write. Long before I was even crazy amounts of research. I don't even remember all the research I did.
There were nights where you just stayed up late doing research. You had no idea.
Research.
You don't even know what you were.
Research. You know, just
reading the same line over and over again.
This research is amazing. Wow.
Oh my god! Oh my god! It's 7 a.m. already. I did so much research. I'm so good at this. I should get another study buddy.
You're killing our guest here, Rico. You're killing the guest.
He's having a good time.
Yeah,
I'm having a damn good time here.
Good.
And you can tell I had a damn good time researching this story.
Yes.
Yo. I don't know. I honestly don't know. I was going through a list of. I mean, the story started out as prose before it eventually made the jump into, oh, hey, this would be about 1,000,000 times better as a comic book.
So sorry, not to interrupt, but you originally had planned to make this like a novel or something like that?
I didn't know what it was going to be. I started with, I did a lot of playwriting in college. And I wrote a novel that didn't go anywhere in my teens. And this was one of the characters that I had lying around, and I was just, going through stuff and everything. And the intent was to make a book. And then the more I was like, just thinking about it from day to day and everything, not going anywhere with it. The more I was like, you know what? I would really, really like to, and by the way, you might hear my dog in the background. I apologize.
You heard mine, so don't worry about it.
Oh, your child.
Mine is right here, so.
Yeah. We all have dogs.
But anyway, I was going through, these characters I had sitting on the back burner, and this was not the sort of character that I ever thought would actually be center stage in a story, never mind a comic book, because he is so drastically different from characters that you see. Well, I mean, not totally unheard of, but I mean, he's very much not the hero and not the heroic type.
He's also not very cookie cutter. Like you said, you say he's not drastically different, but he stands out just enough that he's his own thing. I agree with you there.
Yeah, and he wasn't. I mean, he's certainly not an everyman, kind of character. Not by a long shot. But
not unless certain parts of New York.
I mean, I saw this character, and the more I was, it just seemed like it would be fun to write. And then, I don't know, I was talking to some friends, and we were going back and forth and everything. And someone, I don't know whether it was me or somebody else, I can't remember at this point, said, maybe as a comic, this would work out a lot better. And it's something that I've always had interest in. I've always been a comic nerd. I've been a comic nerd since, technically even before I could read comics, because it was the after school cartoons and things like that were what started me out. Yeah. So, I don't know. It was just like, it felt like the right time. And then, just like the plans aligned just so. And then I found Andres, and then it just kind of snowballed from there.
So, yeah, and that actually leads to what you just said just leads to my next question was how you said you'd put that thing out on DeviantArt, but how did you specifically narrow down to Andres versus somebody else?
He was the only one who came close, honestly. I honestly came across maybe one or two artists, and I'm not going to say names, but were not up to comic book caliber. Everyone else was just phenomenally talented, but it just wasn't hitting. Pun intended. It wasn't hitting the right notes.
Right.
It wasn't.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah. Anyway,
I said instrumental, so I'm.
Yeah.
Rico set the bar. You're fine. You're good.
But yeah, his was the only one where it was like these, and not all of his artwork is like that. The bulk of it is, but you can tell very clearly if you check out his DeviantArt or his Facebook fan page. He's a big Frank Miller fan. It's obvious. Yeah, okay. And I think you see that to a certain extent with our stuff, but it's not quite as obvious. But he just had, and then I remember it was one specific picture they'd done. It was just a woman holding a coffee, but just the way he had drawn it, it was exactly what I was looking for. And I was like, oh my God, can you maybe do can you give me some character designs of what you would, and I, gave rough descriptions of what I wanted, because I wanted him to have, artistic liberty as well.
Sure.
I gave him a rough idea of what I wanted, and he brought back, and I was like, oh my God, you have to be the illustrator for my book. You have to do this. I'm not taking no for an answer here.
And I'm guessing he jumped right on board then.
Yeah, and he was game for it. And he had worked on another independent comic that you can get through Comixology called Template, and you definitely see his style. He does have that kind of. He's always distinctive. It varies from point to point, but you always definitely know his style a mile off. He's just distinctive in that way.
So Rico and I are both big Kevin Smith fans, if you probably haven't figured that out already.
Yeah.
And so I listen to a lot of his podcasts, as does Rico, and he's talked about on what used to be called Fat Man on Batman and now called Batman Beyond.
Batman Beyond.
What'd I say?
Batman Beyond.
Oh, it's Fat Man Beyond. He's right. Yeah. I'm sorry, but he's talked about what it's like to be the director and writer of a comic book, and he's talked about the process. So, but he's also said that every collaboration of artist and writer have their own individual process. So, did you tell Andres I want this in this frame and I want this in a splash page, or did you kind of let him just take the story and design it the way he saw based upon the words?
Well, like I said, I gave rough description, and we are kind of working with a slight, language barrier.
Right.
But he's got English is his second language, but he's got a real command of it. So that was one good thing. What I do is he and I both think in terms of camera angles.
Okay.
We don't necessarily think in terms of, this panel, first panel has such and such going on, it's later revealed that such and such is going on and things like that. But we both, the way he illustrates and the way I write, we both think in terms of camera angles. And that's one thing where we actually really gelled. And so whenever I'm giving him a couple of descriptions, he just automatically knows where I'm coming from, because he thinks in the same kind of way that I do. And that's just one of those things that we just really lucked out on, honestly.
So essentially you're trying to make a movie, but in comic book form. You just want to direct a movie, but you don't have a camera.
Pretty much, yeah. I just want to do everything.
But that's not an insult. I mean, that's a really unique way of making a comic book or a book or anything. It's just like, I want this comic book to look like a movie, just in 2D form. Pretty
much. I mean, well, I almost, okay, like I said before, I did playwriting.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, that actually turned out to be really good groundwork for this, because I studied visual arts in school, and then I also studied playwriting in school. That both of those were really good in terms of I knew roughly how much direction to give and how much leeway to give for a visual artist. And then secondly, I knew that I have this way of writing that is a lot less specific than most comic book writers, I've noticed.
Okay.
It's a lot more broad. There's a lot more that, it can go one of two ways usually with most comic book writers. They're pretty specific. They want it to look a certain way. They want the bubbles to be in certain, they're really specific. I'm not at all. I like the fact that I give maybe I get one or two points that are like, okay, we absolutely have to have this, or for instance, the character Asta had to look a certain way. She had to be pretty physically attractive because Maestro is his shallow self.
Right.
So like things like that. But yeah, as far as like, how the camera is like angled, how you're seeing what the spacing is between characters, and that is almost entirely left up to him, and I give maybe a few pointers of the kind of vibe that I want the panel to have. So yeah, and then of course, the dialogue too.
Okay. No, to your point about camera angles, like that, for lack of a better phrase, that splash page of the concert that I've mentioned before is so good. I would honestly just pull that page out and frame it and hang it. I just love that piece of art. It's really an amazing piece. Speaking of the concert, though, I wanted to get into the music a little bit. I mean, obviously it's called MusicMaker, and obviously he manipulates music, but how did you go about finding the band? I mean, obviously this is an original, with the exception of the Beethoven piece, which I'm sure is open source at this point anyway.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah. It's all original music, I'm assuming, because you're worried about licensing and all that kind of jazz. So,
yeah, and that was one of the things, one of our little hiccups initially. I don't know if I originally I want to have, I don't even know if I can actually say what song it was, because it was a fairly, it wasn't, I thought it was in the public domain. It was not. It was just, it's not going to be there for like, I think, well, probably we never will be. It's probably going to get, renewed or what have you.
Right.
But one of the original songs that was going to be, and it wasn't even the song itself, it was just going to be the lyrics. And midway through writing issue 1, it was actually for issue 1, it was instead of the Death Prayer which is a John Donne poem that Madison says. It was actually going to be, and it was funny only to myself and no one else, which is why I didn't have such a hard time letting it go. It was actually going to be, I'm going to say it. It was Suicide is Painless, which is the theme from MASH.
Oh.
And yeah, it's.
I never knew the name of that. I've only just known it as the MASH theme song, but yeah, okay.
Yeah, the lyrics to it are actually really deep and it's really heavy. But the thing of it is because it is so synonymous with the show, it's one of those ones. Yeah, exactly. It gives a totally different vibe to the song. And so, it's like, oh, no, it's not a chorus of angels singing you to your death. It's your sister playing on a guitar and singing the theme from a 70s TV show, and again,
right.
It was one of those things that was only funny to me. So I didn't have a hard time letting it go whenever someone pointed out to me, you're going to get sued to a wall. You realize that, right? And I was like,
they're going to match your ass.
Yeah.
Pretty much. I was like, oh wait, but it's only the lyrics. It's not the actual. Yeah. You're still pretty boned. And I was like, okay, yeah, all right. So let's rethink this. And fortunately, I have the great pleasure and great honor of knowing a lot of Pittsburgh underground music and musicians. So one of the, but that wasn't, I didn't even think to hit any of them up for the first issue. The first issue was, Society of the Silver Cross, who I just came across, via the internet. And I just said, hey, I really dig the sound you got going here. Would you like to, and I just explained what the whole thing was about. So yeah, we had to, that's one thing that we always have to be mindful of, is that the music that has to go into the story has to be either original or it has to be music that we get the personal okay to use. Yeah. Because, we also didn't want to limit how many times you can play it, which is sometimes the case with QR codes.
Yes. I had some that you. I went back to read issue 1 because you sent that back to us a while ago, like last summer. Yeah. And I went back today and reread it just to refresh my memory on the material. And when I tried to pull up the QRs for that one, I had more trouble than pulling up the QRs for the second issue. Now, I got them. I was able to get it, but it fought with me a little more, than issue 2. So.
Yeah, and that's something that we've had to be at least mindful of, that, especially whenever it's like the tangible book it's going to be, because it can only be printed one way. We can't really send an updated issue or anything to everyone who had one and everything. So that's something that we're conscious of, and something that we have to be mindful of in the future and everything. But that was also another reason why I can't even say we're really limited, but there are choices in music and musicians is we are only pulling from a certain pool because, like I said, they have to be okay with us using it, continuously, that every time, you read the book, you have the option of scanning the music and listening to it. Yeah.
Well,
so yeah.
And we can talk about this off air, but I'm a bit of a tech person, so I have a technical idea that may help you with that QR problem that I can suggest. But that aside, I can also recommend that we know a musician who's pretty talented that could probably help you with this. Now, he's not from Pittsburgh area, but he...
Oh, that's fine.
You've heard our music, and it's the guy who's done our music, and he can do genres all across the board. So he's not a band; he's a one guy. But if you want us to connect it, we can try to connect it with him for future stuff if you want it. But the band in issue 2, I keep wanting to say episode 2 because I keep thinking we talk movies and TV so much. I keep wanting to say episode, which I guess in theory it is an episode, but it really is an issue. They reminded me very much of Breaking Benjamin when I was listening to it. Yeah. They had a very similar sound to them, and I as a fan of them, that really spoke to me too. It was like, okay, this is cool. It's got that vibe to it. It was really interesting. So I am curious to hear what you're going to come up with next, because you mentioned in your email that you got the issue ready for their final concert. So does that mean the band has disbanded?
Yeah, unfortunately, I'm two of the band members I've known literally since they were in diapers. I knew them prior to. Yeah, I know. The music is still available and it's still out there. They're just not going to be producing any newer stuff because it just, life gets in the way sometimes. Yeah. And they weren't able to, their final concert was, I think, was the first one that they had done in like nearly 6 months. It was just like more of a practicality issue that they weren't able to technically get together for like constant everything. I think they still are going to be making music, but it's just going to be probably not. There won't be any live concerts or anything like that.
Gotcha. Okay. Okay. So they're not disbanding completely. They're just not performing as frequently. I get it. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Like every single one of them is still making music. It just, it's just probably like via the internet or something like that. I don't know how exactly they're going to be doing it, but yeah, they're all still musicians.
Like I said, we're certainly not trying to press our guy, but if you want us to connect you with him, we certainly can, because he's really talented, and I think it would be.
I'd be down.
Good. Yeah, he'd be a good fit for your book, I think, honestly. Yeah. The other thing I wanted to talk about, not musically, but and Rico, I think you and I spoke about this when we talked about the comic when we first reviewed it, but we love the fact that at one point, spoilers, I hate to do it to you, but it is issue 1, and you said it's free, so I'm not going to damage it too much, but Maestro dies at one point, or at least leaves his body, and for that part of the book to be in color. So what was it, the decision to make that in color with everything else being black and white? Because that was, to me, and Rico, you agreed with me when we talked about it, was a genius idea. That was a really good idea.
Well, I mean, first of all, Andres could do it. That was the thing was, he wasn't just an exclusively black and white illustrator. He does his own color. We don't have a separate colorist, doing that. And then midway through, I want to say it was, I'd like to take credit for it. I don't think it was me though. It was one of my beta readers, and they were like, oh wow, this is really cool. What, they really were gung-ho about that particular scene. And it just, for whatever reason, I just thought, you know what? I wonder if we could maybe do that in color, but not have the entire thing in color. Just have that, it's going to be, it's going to be like a one-off. Yeah, exactly. And it's going to be, just where it merits it in the story. It's not going to be something that's going to be constant.
Right.
Which, yeah. So,
Is it going to be, and listen, if you don't want to spoil this, that's fine. I respect that. But is it only going to be when he's communicating with the other side, or is it just going to be where it's appropriate per issue?
Both.
Okay.
Both. It will be, there will be times whenever it comes into play the same way it does as in issue 1. And then there will be times whenever it's just primarily, like something that you're meant to focus on.
Right.
What's the villain's name again? Mr. Green or the Green Man? What is his name?
The Green Man.
When the fuck is he going to do something? Because I'm like, I really want him. Like, I love a good villain, but right now, Maestro's the only villain that I can see.
Kinda, yeah.
Yeah.
So I want, he has this look that like reminds me of oh God, what the hell is that movie? It's the one where De Niro plays the devil. Angel Heart. It has like this real. Just the few images we got of him, he looks like Rorschach from Watchmen, blended with like a little bit of Creole, like old voodoo, like devil shit. I want more of that. I want, because most of the time, the villains are charismatic or moody, or they're larger than life. You already have that for your protagonist, and he's barely a protagonist. So it's like you got like a villain and an anti-hero, and I'm curious how they're going to clash. So I want more of the villain.
Yeah,
if I can bitch and demand, I want to.
We're definitely
now's the time to make demands. So.
We're definitely on board. If I have only one demand, it's you asked if you could use a quote of our review in issue 2, and then I flipped to issue 2, and it's not there. What happened?
It's gonna get.
I'm just teasing. I'm totally teasing.
No. There was a logistic reason about that. And
okay.
It's nothing to do with the
We're not going to sue.
I
promise. We're not going to sue for it. I promise you that. We don't have the money to sue.
It was like the amount of pages
No.
like that we had. Yeah,
Totally understood.
I know,
Just teasing. But no, we're both highly excited for the book. And I think what I think is even great about it, and it speaks to the book itself, is Rico and I are both excited, and I think our level of excitement is the same, but our reasons for being excited are different. And I think that speaks to the book. Well, no, Rico, we both like the story, but I'm excited to hear what music's coming next, because again, I'm into that kind of thing. So I'm curious to see what the next QR code's going to bring to the story. And you're just enjoying the story, and there's absolutely nothing wrong with that. So I think that's another reason why this is a really, really good book for someone to pick up, because it speaks to multitudes of people, I think, in that way, because you'll hit just different audiences, and I think that's perfect way to do it. So,
well, that's awesome to hear, and that's that's the goal. I didn't know if we would, you never know whether or not it's actually going to, hit the mark and everything. But I mean, I'm glad to hear we're doing it. So,
hey, you hit the mark faster than we have, because I'm sure we haven't hit the mark with this show yet, and we've been trying for almost 2 years. So, at this point,
speak for yourself.
But Rico, did you have anything else? No, thank you. Rico, did you have anything else you wanted to ask her about? Because I've kind of gotten through everything I wanted to talk about.
I don't know. Can we have cameos in the comic?
There you go.
Yeah,
just
you totally can.
Just the random podcasters that are just like, wait, you guys hear about this random fucking villain? When's he gonna do some shit?
Actually, you know what? Look, I'm not gonna tell you how to do your story, but I would actually love it if Maestro fucked with us mid podcast by pumping music into us somehow. That would be just
oh my gosh.
We're having conversation and then he just starts manipulating the conversation. That would be fucking mind blowing. But anyway, that's how I vision it. But I'm not the writer. You're the writer. We're not the writers. So
there is something. Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
No, we're just the whores. We just want to be.
That's true too. That's true too.
I thought it was a first part of horror, and I was like, okay, I clearly cut him off, and it's like, oh no, you're just whores.
Yeah, okay, no, we're just whores. Yeah, that's true. I can't argue with that.
Whores.
Horror whores.
So. Listen, everybody listening to us, all our fans, you need to read this book. If you didn't like our first review or you didn't go check it out after our first review, you need to go back and check this book out because it really is good. And I mean, you talked about capping it at 15. I'm not going to tell you how to do your art, but I hope you don't. I hope there's many more to come because it's really that captivating. And I'd actually... I mean, obviously, I read it when you first sent both the first issue and the second issue. I hadn't read them in a while, and going back and reading again, I was like, oh my god, I forgot how much I actually enjoyed this. So, really, really am excited to read issues 3 through 15 and hopefully more. But, yeah, that's really it. And thank you so much for joining us on PodAskew, because we're nobodies.
No, this has been awesome. And you guys are fantastic, okay? So...
Well, thank you. I guess real quick, just so we can inflate our own egos, what have you heard of our show, if anything, and what did you enjoy?
I enjoy.
Yeah, enough about you. Let's go back.
No. Because your reviews are usually pretty spot on. I mean,
I think that's the first person that's ever said that about our reviews. I'm fucking loving that.
No, seriously. Well, I mean, okay, I'm not going to say I agree with everything, but 95% of the time, and it's not just solely reviews either. It's a lot of fun too. I actually like listening to your podcast, and that was one of the reasons that. Well, yeah, I mean, again, blowing smoke. So
we'll take all the smoke you want to blow. Trust me. But no. First off, thank you for reaching out to us way back and just saying, hey, would you check out my comic? And we loved it. And we're on board. If we can do anything to help, whether we're in the book or not, because I'm not as greedy as Rico, let's...
Yes, you are. You're just more polite.
Well, that's true. Okay, that's fair. But anything we can do to help you going forward with the book, let us know. Whatever it is.
Yeah, absolutely.
All right, awesome. Okay. Yeah.
Okay, great. And for our listeners, you talked about having the first issue free available on your website. We'll have a link in the description of the episode for you can go get that. So if you're listening to this and you haven't read the book yet and you want to go check it out, the link is in the description. So go click on that link and check out the first issue of Music Maker.
We also have on the website, you can get the hard copy version. You get the free digital version whenever you sign up for the newsletter. That doesn't change. You can get the hard copy versions of 1 and 2 and pre-order issue 3 on the website as well.
There you go, Rico. You can get your hard copies that you're looking for.
Yeah, I'm too cheap.
Yes, you are. That's true.
I'll definitely. Let me put it this way: it's been years since I bought a comic book. Yours, I would definitely consider buying.
That makes me feel pretty good.
You should trust me, because he is cheap.
Why do you think I keep buying VHSs? They're like a quarter a piece.
SK, thank you so much for joining us on PodAskew. We really appreciate your time, and again, whatever we can do to help you out, let us know.
Well, thank you for having me. This has been fun. I like it.
Glad you enjoyed it. Rico, you always get the last word. What do you got to say, buddy?
Nefarious.
CJ here with a few thank yous and to let you know how you can get in touch with and follow the show and us. Listen to us on the Apple Podcast app, Spotify, Stitcher, or anywhere else you find your podcasts. Please don't forget to rate and comment. PodAskew is a member of the Big Heads Media Podcast Network. Visit their website, bigheadsmedia.com, and follow them on Twitter @BigHeadsMedia. If you want to agree with or yell at us, follow Rico, me, and the show on Twitter. The show is @PodAskew, Rico is @RantsRico, and I'm @M_Blade. We want to thank logo designer and show friend Mike for his work on our wonderful logo. You can contact him for artwork via email at logomike80@gmail.com. That's logomike80@gmail.com. Thank you to Samuel Lemons for all original music on the show, especially our theme music. You can find Sam on Twitter @SamuelLemons, all one word, and his music on SoundCloud at soundcloud.com/Samuel-Lemons. Finally, our biggest thank you is to you, everyone, for listening. Rico and I really appreciate your time and look forward to bringing you another episode soon.
The rest is just the same, isn't it? That doesn't really work, does it? Did you try? Shouldn't it be a bit more? Or this? This? Yes. Better? What do you think?
PodAskew.